And I'm very happy to say we are joined by Luxembourg's Prime Minister, Frieden. Sir, thank you very much for joining us on Euronews. I want to start with a question that may seem trivial, but on a day like today, it's important. How are you feeling? Nervous, anxious, concerned?
No, you can't be nervous if you are Prime Minister. I think what matters is that we stay focused on our objective, and that is to provide Ukraine with necessary financial means to survive in this war, because it's a war against Ukraine. It's a war that jeopardizes everything that we have built up after the Second World War. Borders cannot be changed by force. And so we want to support Ukraine. And we are looking for the means to continue on a sustainable path to support Ukraine.
You just said something incredibly important, which is this is not just about Ukraine, but it's really about the future and the fate of Europe after the Russian invasion. What happens if today there's no solution? Would you argue Europe will also be in jeopardy?
No, I don't think so, but I think we will find a solution. We have two options on the table to support financially Ukraine. One is to use funds out of the EU budget, or to make sure that the assets, sovereign assets of Russia that are with European banks can be used to guarantee a loan to Ukraine. This is extremely complex because it has never been done in the past, but I think we can find ways to organize that in a way that makes sure that it works without jeopardizing also the financial stability of the Eurozone, and making sure that Belgium, where most of those assets are located in Euroclear, will not be the target of retaliation measures or court cases in the future.
And who's the biggest headache today? Because a lot will depend on Giorgia Meloni and Italy. Is it Orban today the biggest headache, or maybe do we find ourselves in a strange situation where it's actually the Italian Prime Minister that you need to convince?
We need to be supportive of Belgium, which is the main place where these sovereign assets are located. And I believe that if we take European decisions, we need to bear the consequence also together. We need to do some risk sharing here. And that is why I think we need to support Belgium, and we need to find a group of countries that share the same risks. We should all support them. But we know that some countries are more favorable to Russia than others. Unity is also essential. We need to work for unity. We need to discuss the future of Europe and security architecture of Europe. That is what is at stake. And I think that all countries, including those that you have mentioned, see that risk for the future.
So you think the Belgian Prime Minister will be supported? You see him coming around because he's played a very tough game.
I talked to him on many occasions, including yesterday. And I think we are moving into the right direction, but it will remain extremely complex. This is, as I said, from a legal point of view, this is extremely difficult because we don't want to do a confiscation of assets, because we need to keep the rule of law. Financial stability also means that assets that are in Europe cannot be taken away by a political decision. On the other hand, we must find a way either to use EU funds through the EU budget, or to use Russian assets to guarantee for the future the loans that we are giving to Ukraine. And that is a complex discussion that we will have to have, but I'm optimistic that we find a solution.
And you spoke with the Belgian Prime Minister, which is very on brand for the Benelux. What does your political instinct say? Is this something that he can come around and find a solution? How did you find this conversation? Constructive?
Of course. I mean, Belgium is a country that is used to many compromises, but this is a compromise among all of us. Europe is a group of 27 countries, and we need together to find solutions. It's about the future of our continent. It's about whether we want a continent where force decides on how the future is decided, or whether it's in a peaceful manner. And we want a peaceful manner. We know that we need to be more sovereign, because America might not be there with us on all steps in the future. We have Russia, which is a permanent threat, and it's as a European Union for peace, prosperity and security that we need to stand together today.
And Prime Minister, I must ask you a final question, because along those lines of new relations that may emerge and new bridges that the European Union needs is the Mercosur, a major trade deal with Latin American countries. The French say they want a delay to this vote. It seems the Italians too now. What happens if this gets delayed again? Will you be furious, disappointed? Is this the end of it?
If borders around us are being closed or tariffs are being introduced, we need new markets. And I think Mercosur, like other free trade agreements, serve our economy, create jobs in our countries, because we produce goods that we need to export somewhere. And that is why independent of when we sign, we should stick to what we have agreed to with other countries, and Mercosur is one of the examples, despite the fact that we need to take into account, of course, the concerns of our farmers, but that we can solve domestically or within Europe, at the same time opening markets for our industries in the rest of the world.
Well, Prime Minister, thank you very much for joining us on Euronews. Of course, the coverage of this very important summit continues all day on Euronews.
Thank you so much, Maria Tadeo there, Euronews' EU editor, and of course to your guest, the Luxembourg Prime Minister, Frieden.